I'm standing in front of my wife's grave, hands shaking as I hold the funeral program. I look around this sunny, fancy neighborhood. Not a single child shows up. Jason texts me a cold busy, signing a big deal. And Chloe, she's posting pictures from Santorini, smiling, on the day Mom died. I feel my blood boil, the grief of losing my wife twisting into public shame. But in that moment, I knew I wouldn't just stay silent. I had to act. Before we go on, hit subscribe and tell me where you're listening in the comments. After the funeral ended, I stood alone in the empty living room of the mansion, listening to the wind sweep through the tall trees outside the windows. The scent of fresh flowers still lingered, but the heavy silence made me feel emptier than ever. I looked at the empty chairs, counted the absent children, and realized my pain wasn't just losing Evelyn. It was the public betrayal the cold indifference laid bare. Jason and Chloe had chosen their own world money-fame vacations while their mother, the woman who gave them life, had left this world, enduring it all alone. I sighed, picked up my phone again, and opened Chloe's latest post. Sunlight streamed through the window, hitting the screen, making my daughter's bright smile look even colder. Part of me wanted to scream, throw the phone across the room, but a colder, steadier part reminded me that now, the power was in my hands. Evelyn was gone, but I could still keep my promise to her. Do what she couldn't, put her legacy, her values into the hands of those who truly deserved them. I called the lawyer, Evelyn's trusted attorney for years, and demanded an immediate meeting. His office was warm, inviting, but that warmth did nothing to ease the simmering rage inside me. I instructed him to cancel the old will, split nothing between Jason and Chloe, and draft a new one. In that moment, I realized I was no longer the weak old man being manipulated by his children. I was the guardian of her memory, the executor of justice for the woman who had passed. David. What would Evelyn have wanted? The lawyer asked gently. I looked at him, eyes hard as steel, voice low and cold. She wanted the one thing those kids never understood: real care, real love, not gifts or empty promises. I rifled through Evelyn's notes, smudged ink, every word honest and true. In those notes she mentioned Sarah, the nurse who cared for her in her final months, the one she trusted more than her own children. Whenever Evelyn looked at Sarah, she saw patience, selfless devotion, things my children never gave her. My decision crystallized in my mind, cold but certain. The $7 million of her estate would be distributed according to Evelyn's wishes. $5 million to establish the Evelyn Sterling Scholarship Fund to help nursing students pursue their dream of saving lives, and the remaining $2 million would go directly to Sarah, the one who truly stayed by Evelyn until the very end. Jason and Chloe, the careless children, would receive only small mementos, an old watch, a silver ring, reminders of the choice they refused to make. As the lawyer typed the new terms, I pulled out my phone, took a screenshot of Chloe's post. This would serve as proof that my children had no real bond with the woman they lost, a silent testament, speaking for me, for Evelyn, showing that their neglect could not be hidden. I would compromise nothing, negotiate nothing, because Evelyn deserved more than empty regrets and late apologies. In the days that followed, I reached out to Sarah. She didn't understand why I would give such a large sum. But when I spoke of her dedication, the love she showed Evelyn, her eyes lit up. I saw pride in her, not of greed, but of doing right, of being worthy. Sarah would become the guardian of this emotional legacy, and I knew somewhere Evelyn would smile, at peace, seeing my choice. When all the paperwork was done, I stood alone in my office, looking out over the ocean. The waves crashed silently, yet echoed louder than any words. I exhaled, cold but relieved. This decision wasn't about punishing my children. It was about keeping my promise to Evelyn, believing that love and kindness could rise above ambition, indifference, and selfishness. I realized, sometimes justice isn't about what we give our blood, but what we choose to give to worthy hearts. In that moment, I felt a part of the pain begin to settle. This act didn't erase my loss, but it steadied me, gave me strength to face my careless children, the past, and myself. I was no longer a victim. I was the executor of the justice Evelyn and I deserved. 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang, jolting me. Jason and Chloe were at the door, not to visit, not to share grief, but to confront me, demanding explanations about the trust and inheritance. I stood silent, watching every gesture, every glance. Jason was still in his expensive suit, cold, stern expression, while Chloe, golden hair shining, wore that mocking smile as if the world revolved around her, but their eyes, deep, full of anger and ambition, a sight I'd seen before, yet now, it no longer scared me. Chloe stepped inside, clutching her Hermes bag, glancing at me. "Dad, why did you change the will? We're your kids. You can't do this." Her voice sharp high, but I heard the helplessness behind it, the very helplessness they'd planted in their mother's heart years ago. Jason stepped forward, voice deeper but pressing. "If you don't cancel this, we'll sue. You know you're not fully competent, and the law will side with us." I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, letting the fury in my veins settle. When I opened them, I was no longer the cornered father. I was David Sterling, a man who had seen indifference and betrayal, and now acted with reason, love, and a promise to Evelyn. I walked to the table, placed my hand on the stack of prepared documents, and spoke calm but cold. "You're talking about what your mother wanted. Your mother never wanted her wealth. The only thing she wanted was a goodbye. One you traded for a plane ticket. I am fulfilling her final wish, giving kindness to those who deserve it." Chloe's eyes widened, Jason's brow furrowed, and a heavy silence filled the room. I knew they were trying to intimidate me, with the law, with words with power they thought could control. But this time, no trick could shake me. I walked to my phone, opened the Santorini photo Chloe had posted on the day Mom died. Bright sunlight, her smiling face, mocking, almost defiant. I asked, "Do you see anyone in this photo who looks like they're hurting? Your mother suffered alone? Here." Their eyes went still, not with guilt, but with the realization that every proof, every act of neglect could not be hidden. Jason stammered, trying to justify Dad. "You know, Chloe and we're busy with work. I raised my hand, cutting him off, voice low and cold as thunder. "You were busy with work, with fame, with your own world. Your mother, the woman who gave you life, was left alone. And I stood here witnessing it all. And now, justice has been put where it belongs." Chloe stepped closer, trying to drag me into argument, but I stood firm, hand on the files, gaze like steel. I told them every detail about Sarah, how she cared for Evelyn in her final months, the patience, the devotion, things they never gave. I saw Chloe and Jason squirm, yet they tried to appear indifferent. I smiled, a cold smile, not of hatred, but of justice, of the right choice prevailing. Tension peaked when Jason growled, "You can't decide this alone. We'll take this to court." And I didn't need to hear more. I knew exactly what they'd say. I handed them the new will, placed my hand on their shoulders, voice still cold, but commanding. "You don't understand. What I'm giving today isn't money, isn't property. I'm giving love, kindness, the promise your mother entrusted to me. If you're not worthy, you get nothing. No court can change that." They stood silent, the wall between us taller than the mansion itself. I realized I was fully in control. No hatred, no outburst, just the cold certainty of a man who endured loss and understood the true value of loyalty and love. I turned and walked away, leaving Jason and Chloe standing in the room, trapped with their anger and belated regret. In that moment, I understood this confrontation wasn't about money. It was a lesson about love choices and justice. Jason and Chloe would learn, though too late, that what they ignored, what they dismissed, could never be bought or replaced. And I, David Sterling, the father who once bore betrayal, now stood firm, cold, yet serene, keeping my promise to Evelyn, giving the legacy of love to the hearts that truly deserved it. After the chaotic confrontation with Jason and Chloe, the house fell into an eerie silence. No more shouting, no threats. Just me standing against the solemn walls of the living room, staring out at the endless blue ocean. The waves lapped gently at the shore, reminding me that everything comes to an end. And now it was time to end the burden I had carried for so many years with these careless children. I walked through the mansion, hand-brushing over old photos of Evelyn, watching her smile frozen in each frame. I thought of Jason and Chloe, the children I had devoted my life to raising. But now, they had made themselves strangers to their mother, to this family, even to basic decency. I realized that if I continued to carry the weight, I would only breed more pain, more anger, and Evelyn's memory would be clouded by resentment. It was time to close the chapter. I called the lawyer, this time not to change the will, but to take the final step, sever all financial ties and rights for Jason and Chloe. When they arrived, I enunciated each word, voice low sharp. I am no longer a resource for you. From this moment on, I am only the father of memories, not of bills. The tie of obligation is cut. Jason's eyes widened. He tried to protest, but I shrugged coldly. You have the right to be angry, but not to demand a mercy you never valued. Chloe broke down sobbing, but I looked at her as if she were a statue. No pity. Only the icy resolve of a man who knew what he needed to do to keep his promise to the one who had passed. Then I delivered a decision that stunned them completely. The seaside mansion, the place full of memories of Evelyn, had been sold immediately to the Evelyn Sterling Scholarship Fund, and the symbolic proceeds transferred to Sarah. I had purchased a smaller, modest apartment in another state to live out the rest of my life. No luxury, no emptiness, only peace. The peace I had long lost under the weight of obligation and unreasonable expectations from my children. Jason and Chloe stood silent, their anger and regret plain on their faces. They realized that not only had money slipped away, but the idea of home, the memories, the space, the values they once assumed were theirs, was gone too. I heard Chloe sigh. Jason remained mute, and for the first time in years, I saw them understand that their neglect had come at a high cost. I walked to the study, opened an old file box, pulled out letters from nursing students who received the scholarship. They were full of gratitude, simple, heartfelt thanks. I held each letter, read every line, and felt a quiet satisfaction. Evelyn would be pleased, Sarah deserved it, and Jason and Chloe, though regretful, would learn a valuable lesson. I smiled, not with hatred, but with profound peace, like the calm sea after a storm. In that moment, I looked out the window, sunlight glinting on the water. All the pain, disappointment, betrayal, they hadn't vanished, but they had been placed where they belonged. I understood that cutting the ties wasn't just about money or property. It was about freeing myself from pointless emotional burdens, to live a life true to the values Evelyn and I cherished. Night fell. I sat in the new apartment, sipping hot tea. The silence was no longer emptiness, but space to reflect, to listen to myself, to honor those truly deserving. Sarah sent a small letter, telling me about the nursing students whose dreams the scholarship had supported, and I felt a quiet joy spread within me. My actions, my choices, had created real value, not for Jason or Chloe, but for worthy hearts. I placed my hand on a photo of Evelyn, whispering, "I kept my promise to you, Mom. We didn't punish the children, but we chose to honor you in the most meaningful way." My heart felt light, not a shallow relief, but the deep peace of someone who had endured, suffered, and finally carried out justice in his own way. The ocean still lapped outside, but now in this small apartment I felt no emptiness. I was free. And Evelyn's legacy of love had been entrusted to hearts that deserved it, the only thing that truly mattered. In the days after severing my obligations, the seaside mansion felt as empty as the hearts of the children who had abandoned their mother. I stood in the quiet room, hand resting on a photo of Evelyn, realizing that the freedom I had claimed wasn't just about money. It was about heart, about emotion, about the right to live according to what I believed was right. Every wall, every object in the mansion now bore witness to one final decision. I was no longer a financial source for Jason and Chloe. I existed only as their father in memory. I sat at my desk, closing my eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. Thinking back to all the years I had tried to guide them, giving everything without limit, I understood that now, all responsibility had been placed in its proper place. No pressure, no explanations, no more unreasonable demands holding me back. I felt the cold, seasoned armor of my own resolve protecting me, reminding me that justice doesn't always come from softness or mercy. When the lawyer finalized the last documents, I was informed that the seaside mansion had officially transferred to the Evelyn Sterling Scholarship Fund, with the symbolic proceeds given to Sarah. I looked out the window at the afternoon sun dancing on the ocean. The place once full of memories with Evelyn, now transformed into living value, into hearts that knew appreciation. I smiled, cold but proud, knowing Evelyn would be at peace seeing her legacy placed in the right hands. Jason and Chloe had tried to cling to their entitlements, but now they realized it was over. They stood outside the door like children stripped of a toy, angry and belatedly regretful. I showed no anger, shouted, no words offered, no confrontation. I simply let the silence fill the room. That silence carried the weight of experience, of decisive action, and of justice they could no longer deny. I understood that sometimes the greatest power isn't money or property, but the ability to reject what is unworthy and protect what truly matters. That evening I walked through my new apartment, modest, but enough to feel freedom and peace. I held my cup of tea, looked out at the endless sea, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped by obligations or my children's expectations. This choice, cold but certain, brought a new rhythm to life, the rhythm of a free man, one who knew how to value what was truly worthy. In the following weeks, letters arrived from Sarah, stories from nursing students helped by the scholarship. Each letter told of dreams of effort of hearts, grateful for the chance. I read every line, every word, and felt a quiet joy spreading within me. Evelyn would smile from afar. Sarah would continue her legacy. And I, a father seasoned by experience, finally saw that justice and love could rise above neglect and selfishness. One afternoon, I realized Jason and Chloe had no way to access the mansion, no way to reclaim property or rights. I felt no gloating, no satisfaction of revenge. Instead, there was stability, profound peace. I had done right by what Evelyn and I cherished, placing value, love, and kindness into the hands of those who deserved it. As night fell, I sat before Evelyn's photo whispering, "I kept my promise to you, Mom. We didn't punish the children, but we protected what mattered most." The coldness in my voice was no longer hatred. It was affirmation. Justice carried out in silence. Peace placed exactly where it belonged. The ocean waves lapped softly outside, the moonlight shimmered on the water. And for the first time I felt that in this decisiveness I had repaid the past, and opened a calm future for myself. Night deepened, and the small apartment glowed with gentle light. Quiet, yet full of meaning. I closed my eyes, listening to the wind of my heartbeat. Knowing everything was in its rightful place, Evelyn at peace, Sarah fulfilled, and I free, calm, and serene. No obligations, no pressure. Only the values I chose to keep and to give, and those values were the true legacy. A year had passed since I decisively cut all ties with Jason and Chloe. The small apartment I had chosen now felt like a true home, not empty, like the seaside mansion had been. Warm-colored walls, gentle light filtering through the windows, bringing the peace I had sought for so many years. I walked through the room, noticing every simple detail, not of wealth, but of freedom, and the right choice. Sarah continued to send me letters from the nursing students who received the Evelyn Sterling Scholarship. I held each letter, reading every line with a quiet sense of emotion. The thanks were simple, unadorned, not for show, but filled with deep gratitude. I realized this was the true legacy, not the mansion, not money, but hearts given opportunity, values that Evelyn had trusted and I had upheld. Each letter reminded me that even cold or decisive actions, when done rightly, could create immense meaning. One afternoon I sat by the window, looking out at the sea, the same sea that had witnessed so many happy years with Evelyn. A gentle breeze, waves lapping the shore, carrying the quiet rhythm I had waited for. I recalled the final confrontation with Jason and Chloe, their anger, their belated regret. I felt no satisfaction, no joy in punishment, only freedom and the understanding that my cold, resolute choice had brought peace. Sarah visited that afternoon carrying a small folder with photos and thank you letters from the students. I looked at her and saw genuine happiness so different from the gifts or empty promises Jason and Chloe had once thought important. Sarah smiled, eyes full of gratitude. Not for money, but for the values she had helped preserve and share. I placed my hand on her shoulder, and in that moment I felt a part of Evelyn still present, through Sarah's devotion, loyalty, and appreciative heart. That evening I sat in the study, cup of tea in hand, staring at photos of Evelyn. I whispered to myself, we didn't punish the children, but we chose to honor Mom in a meaningful way. Blood is accidental, but kindness is a choice, and that is the true legacy we leave behind. My heart was at peace, no longer burdened by meaningless obligations, only the calm and completeness of a man who had done what he believed right. In the days that followed, I noticed Jason and Chloe slowly fell silent, no longer trying to interfere with my life or my property. They had to face their own choices, and I was no longer a figure to manipulate. I felt no gloating, only a profound calm, knowing everything had been placed where it belonged, loyalty and true love entrusted to those who deserved it, and neglect and selfishness left only as lessons for children who failed to appreciate them. Another afternoon, I stood on the balcony watching the sunset reflected on the sea. Waves rolled steadily, reminding me that life continues, that loss and regret are not endings, but opportunities to choose again. I realized that peace isn't the absence of pain, but the ability to place everything in its rightful place, to give value to the right hands. Evelyn would smile from afar, and I knew her legacy of love, not money, not property, had been fully entrusted. That night I sat before Evelyn's photo, the warm light casting a gentle glow on her face. My voice low, full of feeling. We chose the worthy. We gave value, love, and kindness. That's what matters. When faced with pleasing the demanding or honoring the deserving, always choose the deserving. I closed my eyes, listening to the wind outside, feeling my heartbeat. And for the first time in years, I experienced complete peace, true peace, unbound without regret. In the small apartment with the ocean outside, warm tea in hand and letters from grateful hearts, I, David Sterling, finally understood that in life, it is kindness and true love that create the greatest legacy. Evelyn is at peace. Sarah is fulfilled, and I am free. No more pain, no more meaningless obligation. Only the values I chose to preserve, and that is the most precious gift one can leave behind. If you enjoyed this story and want to follow more emotional family dramas, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my journey. I hope it brings moments of reflection and genuine feeling.